Okay, this is video 2 on this RCA color TV, and I don't think I disclosed the model number on the last video, but this is the GQ4679W, made in 1972. And we had a couple of concerns with this set. We had a problem in the vertical output, and we also had, if you can see it in there, this is that control panel that rocks out to the front. All the controls needed to be cleaned, along with the tuner up there. I don't think you can really see the thing there very well. Let's see. Yeah, should get a light, but you kind of know what's going on there. But yeah, this is one of those modular chassis. Everything sort of just plugs in. Looks like we have the color amplifiers here, and we have the delay line. Looks like the color demodulator oscillator, the crystal there. And the chassis number on this, CTC46 looks like. Horizontal output. And I'll wager our deflection is all over here, horizontal, and probably the vertical. I don't have a schematic for this set, so we'll have to do some snooping around to see what we're working with. So I'm going to guess that we've got some capacitor issues on the vertical output, because it was touchy and the linearity was off. I think there's definitely some issue with it. It's been a couple weeks since I checked this thing out. Anyway, I'll try to get this board out and move forward. Well, after closer inspection, I've pretty much determined that this part of the board, at least, is the vertical output. This really looks like the vertical, get some focus here, vertical output transformer. And we really don't have a lot of components on here. There's a, let this thing focus. There we go. There's an electrolytic capacitor in there. I've pulled this board out, which is right here. There's a capacitor on there. And I'm noting, I can zoom in, right at the end of that resistor. It looks like a pretty bad solder joint to me. If we can check the close-up capabilities of this thing. Not too good. Anyway, let's try it again. There it is. Yeah, that looks like a solder joint that is about to become intermittent, along with those two on that blue resistor. So, to bring this back around here. Okay, so I got a capacitor checker here. It's a ESR meter, and it basically runs a frequency through the capacitor to check the capacitive reactance, the feedback. Overall, it's basically a check of the quality of the capacitor. So let's get in here and check this. ESR is a little high in depending on the value of the capacitor, but most cases, I mean, we should be above 2 ohms or near zero, as near zero as possible. But I've definitely seen worse capacitors, but I do think this thing needs to be replaced. That probably goes for every single electrolytic capacitor in this set, but we are not restoring it today. So a couple of issues here in the vertical output that need to be addressed. And I think this chassis is going to have to pull out in order to get to the back of that board. So let's attack that. Well, this was one of the easiest chassis that I have ever pulled out of a set. It's 4 screws. There were 2 at the top, and there were 2 through the bottom, and the thing kind of just slid right out. And all the tuner, everything pulled out, disconnecting those, and the Ultor lead was disconnected there. And this piece of cake. So we're looking at this, and at the others. Let's look at the other side of it. Yeah, kind of what I thought. Look at that. The thing has been driven hard. But a lot of these solder joints here are cracked out, so need to be redone, checked. This side looks okay. There's really nothing going on over here. It's all tuning and low voltage stuff. So shouldn't be too hard. Alright, I've gone over this board and I've reflowed a lot of the solder joints that I saw that were either cracked out or thought, you know, they were well on their way. Made a couple of modifications while I was at it. This, let's see here. This resistor that was getting really hot, if I can get it, get you a good image here. No, it just does not like to focus. Click focus and then it goes right back out. Ah, there we go. Okay, so this resistor, this 330 ohm, was sitting right against the board and it was just cooking this thing. So I've replaced that. The value of the resistor checked okay, but I've changed it with one, then I've propped it up off the board so it can dissipate its heat a little bit better. This was sitting right next to it, and it checks good, but it's, you know, with the heat on it, I didn't want to take any chances. This customer sent this TV all the way up from Van Nuys, and he intends to use it as a regular everyday living room set. So it's not something I want to take any chances with. Yeah. So you can see here I've mounted that up off the board quite a ways. And I've replaced this electrolytic. Come on now. And this is the capacitor down here that I thought might possibly be stressed from heat damage, so that's new. Everything else on the board checks out okay, so we'll run a test and see how it looks after we clean those pots out. Back on the control panel of this TV set, I went ahead and I pulled off all of the knobs, and then there were 2 screws here to hold this panel in. Those 2 screws came out, and this thing pretty much just drops out. So it looks like this tuner control panel is held in here, and let's see where else. Here. And then at the top there, those are loosened and the thing kind of slides up and pulls off. However, I don't think I'm going to need to do that in order to clean this tuner because it's got holes in the side I could flush out with the contact cleaner. So cleaning all of these is pretty much, you've got same for any potentiometer. You've got these openings in the side, and you can use, I use this stuff, works great. And just flush it and then work it back and forth a few times. That's really all it needs. So I'll do that with all these and flush that out, crank the tuner around a couple of times, and it ought to be just fine.